Put it in the chat. Greetings. Greetings back at you, Doug. We're just going to give people a couple more minutes, although Whit and I both are very timely people, so we'll start here very, very shortly. That's weird. I wonder if it's kicking out AI because all AI just left.
Hmm. It may be that, yeah, it may be that it tries to join and it's unable. I've certainly
Hmm.
been to a meeting where my note taker just says meeting type not supported.
You can turn on for everyone if that's okay, Whit.
Yeah,
Go ahead and turn on for everyone, Sean. Hey, Dawn. I hope your dog is joining us too.
I hope there's a lot of dogs.
I've got two in here, and there is a 50-50 chance that they will bark during this.
Yeah. Mine, I've told you I have to leave my door ajar because he
Yeah.
doesn't like to be on the other side of the door.
All right, you want to go ahead and get started? Keep
Let's
things
do it.
going. Oh, and oh, sorry. Special shout out. Neil Gordon's rabbit has joined us as well.
Oh, I love it.
Mhm. Doug said it's possible AI didn't. Okay, cool. Thanks, Doug. All right, let's get started. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
We wanted to, of course, talk about reviews because they are huge, very important, and more people are adopting them, and more advisors are. So, Whit, being the amazing CEO of Amplify Reviews that it is, wanted to get together, and here we go.
Here
So,
we
I'm Nikki
go.
Clark. I'm Nikki Clark of Nikki Clark Marketing. Um, and Whit, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Whit Lanier, CEO of Amplify Reviews, and I'm following Nikki's lead that we're going to dive right in. We're not going to do little intros. We can do
No,
outros if you want.
we're just going right in. I cannot stand home. What is it called? Housekeeping. Can't do it. So let's just dive right in. Everyone can appreciate the speediness of this. So referrals have always been the foundation of the advisor industry, right? But I would say that's for any industry. My sister, who is on the back end of this, you guys can't see her, but our father built a company on referrals. I don't think he did any marketing in his life except t-shirts. So there's nothing new out there as far as referrals, but of course they're vital for the advisor industry, right? But now no longer is are reviews just going to like seal the deal. Of those do work, but what do people do when they get a referral? They go online. So the reviews that they see online or on your website are really going to just skyrocket it. This is the holy grail. And that is what we are going to be talking about today.
And Nikki and I had a couple of great conversations leading up to this, and touched on exactly what she had just said there. In a minute, we'll talk about, for a while, I cited a statistic from, I think, Bright Local that claimed 89% of people trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations or referrals. And in a second, well, I'm going to let you ponder that while I tell you a couple stats from our recent survey. And then I think we've got a little anecdote that'll give some context as to how that could possibly be true.
Mhm. And
Uh,
this survey, real quick, Whit, was conducted by Amplify, correct?
Correct. And this was our second annual survey, which was always the vision. It was just fun when a year had finally passed so we could see how things had changed. So yeah, the headline that we have here is is a big change, and we were happy to see this, but not surprised to see it. So
Mhm.
quick context, uh, we were looking at one of the lists of the top 100 RIAs. And so our first survey of the same cohort was done around July of 24. In 25, what we had found is that the number of firms actively promoting their testimonials had grown by 400%. Now, I'll give some transparency
So
here.
let's repeat that. That's huge. That's kind of a big
Yes,
deal.
400% growth, no matter what your starting point, no matter what sort of units you're looking at, it is a tremendous amount of growth. Now, I'll give the full context. We are still only at 10% of that cohort that are actively using testimonials as part of their marketing. But don't brush that aside as a rounding error. Going from 2% to 10% is exactly what we would expect in sort of a technology adoption curve. And it is certainly evidence that we have really building, accelerating momentum behind this. And we have every reason to believe that we would from looking at every other industry that uses reviews. So, our premise at the outset was now that the SEC, now that the regulators have removed the barrier that prevented
Mhm.
advisors from using testimonials and endorsements in their marketing, there's no reason they won't want and need to do it because consumers demand that.
And it's allowed in Texas now, correct?
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
And
right.
so we put out a summary in a recent newsletter that, oh, I'm forgetting the acronym. The National Association of like independent advisors is recommending that every state now follow the SEC. Right now, we're at
Mhm.
about half of them, 26, I think, states follow the SEC guideline. And the expectation is that this movement will accelerate that second half now.
Nice.
So I don't know if you remember the story that we talked about that we know advisors historically get the bulk, the majority of their new clients from referrals. And I don't know that that's going to change significantly, but the other data that I have seen says a prospect looking for recommendations from friends and family usually gets about 2.6 names. If we
Hmm.
round it up to three, so I've got three names. Now I need to go decide, do I want to reach out to all three? Do I think they're all worthwhile? That's where, when they Google you, or even if they go to an AI tool to see what they find, your reviews are going to be so tremendously important.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you remember the anecdote we talked about as a metaphor that I think really drives
Hmm.
home how you can think of referrals and reviews and how important it is that they coexist.
Yes, the antidote was restaurants. And this is, if a friend recommends a restaurant, you're like, oh, okay. But for me, as the person I am, I immediately go online and look at their Google reviews, but I also dive into them because I love the atmosphere. I want the whole picture. And this is similar to how advise when someone's searching for advisor, right? Because they're going to be building a relationship. And so I look at everything. And if they have like a 3.7 review, honestly, chances are I'm out. Like even if my husband's like, "Well, the food looks really good." I'm like, "I don't care. We're not going to go." And women have the veto power, as we all know. But let's say just for instance, they have 3.7 reviews and the food looks fabulous and all of that. I'm still going into it upset and angry and I'm not going to like it when I come out. So chances are the people looking for an advisor is going to do the same thing. And personally, I know I get a lot of people who ask me because they know I work with advisors to refer some. And I find out a little information on them and I give them at least three to pick from. And it's rare I'll be like, oh, this is the only one you want to meet with because personalities, right? So the same thing is definitely similar with restaurants and the reviews and how you can use reviews to really boost your credibility um, and just stand out also. So usually if I'm online and I see a restaurant that someone recommended to me and it's 3.7 stars, I'm going to look at other ones that are similar that have been, recommended to me on Google search because I'm
Yeah.
picky. And also, while we're yapping and geeking out about all of this, because Whit and I both love data and stats. If you all have any questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas, whatever, just go ahead and throw them in the chat because we would love to be able to talk with you and work any like through pain points if you have or any just questions you've been seeing.
But that little anecdote to me is how you can reconcile in your brain the idea that in any circumstance would people trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. If you have a friend who you think has good taste in food and tells you you should have your important date night here,
Hmm.
the power and persuasiveness of that trusted personal recommendation can be undone with a lack of good reviews to support the same idea.
Yes, and I'm not going to ask them for another
Yeah.
recommendation.
That's harsh, but okay. Okay. Well, so part of what was the inspiration for Nikki and I to have this offline conversation that we thought was interesting enough to bring to all of you all, thank you for attending, was like I'd said, this research that we did, and this is the second year we've done it. And my initial inclination was to really dive into the weeds of the research. And I'm glad I had the conversation with Nikki. She was like, some people may like that, but why don't you give the high level takeaways? And then we will send the full report to everybody who registered and attended. So you will all get this. But I will rapid fire the bullets here so that we leave time for all of the perspective Nikki's going to give and anybody who does have questions. So, looking at this cohort of 100 top RIAs, um, consumers don't know what the regulations are about testimonials or where they can be or what disclosures are needed. And maybe everybody on the call doesn't already know this. Well, first, disclaimer, I'm not your compliance officer, so take whatever I say. It's great if you want to trust me, but you also got to get the blessing of your compliance officer. With that said, if we're looking at the SEC marketing rule, it is very clear that you are fine and permitted to have a Google business profile. You are
Hmm.
permitted to make sure all of the information is accurate and to even add pictures and things there. And maybe you all already know this, but if you have a Google business profile, you can't turn off reviews. If it exists, somebody can find it on the internet and they can leave a review.
Hmm.
So, the highest level question we looked at was if we look at these 100 firms, if somebody goes online looking for reviews, how many of them are going to find one? And almost 80%, 79 out of 100, had at least one thing that looked like a review that they could find somewhere online, which is 12 more firms than last year. However, that 79% can be misleading because, like I'd said, Google reviews can happen with or without their involvement, solicitation, participation. Same is true of Yelp reviews. And so the contrast is that only 10 of them we see evidence where they are either actively using those testimonials in their marketing on their website, or, there's one or two that just by the volume of reviews on Google might suggest that they're involved in soliciting them. So I'm going to hit the really high points of the other things. And if people have questions, we can dive in. Otherwise, we'll send the report. Here's what you need to know. Um, the average number of Google reviews, and I went with median because there are one or two outliers. The median number of Google reviews, if you are one of the top 100 RIAs, median number of reviews is 3.
Hmm.
Uh, Average rating is a 4.2, which for a restaurant is not bad, but I think for a lot of advisor firms may be underwhelming. If we look at Yelp, it's even worse. Median number of reviews is 4. Average rating is 3.1. Yelp generally skews lower on the average rating. And so the big takeaway from those two things for me is that if you only have 3 reviews, whatever your average rating is very fragile. It is very influenceable by one more good review or one more bad review. And that is all the motivation to go take a proactive approach to trying to collect reviews. And we'll dive into that.
Oh, can remember. Okay. Can I share this slide one next?
Yeah,
All right. I
over to you.
love this example because I do it all the time. Whit actually said he had trouble finding products without any reviews. And I told him next time he needs to reach out to me because women's clothing has tons of no reviews. But this is a good example right here. Um, you're looking at two game controllers. They're about $10 difference. But I, as a consumer, am most likely like 99.9% going to buy the one with over 124,000 reviews.
That cost $10 more.
Yeah, I I just did this morning. My husband wanted a new pair of hiking boots and I gave him two examples and he picked the one with more reviews and it was $30 more. And my husband's very frugal. So like it was just a point in case and I didn't even think about that. Perfect example. And just the reviews, just it's that credibility, it's that proof, it's that reassurance that we're not going to be duped. And also the same applies for advisors. I want to go right here. This I love, absolutely. So this is a real life example. Giving a shout out to Judy Carlson Financial Group. I know personally they have worked very hard at getting reviews compliantly. And she has 45 five-star reviews. This is huge, right? I looked up some advisors in her area, and the closest one I think had 7, if I'm not mistaken, compared to someone who doesn't. Like, which one are you most likely to pick? I mean, the clear winner is Judy, and so that's what Hugh. No, sorry, not Hugh. Whit. You did it earlier. Now I'm calling you something else. But that's what Whit and I want to show here is that this is going to be the differentiation. This is going to be that deciding factor if you are up against someone. Sorry, I was looking at it. If you're up against an advisor or Morgan Stanley or Edward Jones, right? And you have more reviews, this is it. This is the golden ticket.
If
Uh,
somebody with industry expertise like Nikki Clark gives you 2 names and says, I personally know both of these people, you can't go wrong with either one. And this is what happens when you open your browser. I think pretty much everybody on the call is going to know who they're going to reach out to first and who they may not ever get around to reaching out to.
mhm, mhm. So, yes, Greg Cummings. Yes, I always look for verified reviews. Also, I don't want the bot ones at all. And so this is what's really big, just a real life example right here to put it into perspective. Um, when the prospect obviously doesn't see those reviews, it does raise, right, like bells and alarms. So let's jump into this next section if you are ready.
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of reasons that I particularly hear from a marketing standpoint why advisors aren't asking for reviews. So one of them is, what if I get a bad review? What do you want to go into what happens and also how Amplify helps with this?
I will gladly. And as when we prepared, I said, this slide is stuff I can talk about for a long time. So Nikki's going to keep me honest
Yes.
if I start rambling. And folks on the event, if you have a question or want me to elaborate, just let us know in the chat. Um, 2 things I want people to think about in this situation. One is if you are focusing on a testimonial program where you are asking your current clients, that is the SEC definition of a testimonial, it is your current clients. If you are asking for them to write reviews, you have to think about what circumstances have to exist where somebody would write you a bad review and want to remain your client. It is a little bit hard to imagine, and it's a little bit of cognitive dissonance. But let's say that that does either, if we're looking at Google, maybe somebody who's not your current client, maybe they're a former client, or maybe despite that strange cognitive dissonance, somebody writes you a lukewarm review. There are 2 ways to think about it. The first one is if you're going to undertake a reviews program, you should be glad for a lukewarm review, for a 3-star review that says, I think Nikki's financial planning and business acumen are amazing, but I was annoyed by this one thing. Because that means when they read the rest of your 5-star reviews, which is what you should expect and assume most of your clients will write, when they get to your page and see that it's a 4.95 instead of a 5, they'll say, I have a reason to believe all the rest
Mm.
of these reviews. And then the other angle of this is, and I think this is one of our other post-its on the screen of I can do it later. I remember the slides. So this is the cautionary tale. You can do it. You can do everything in your life later. You could always do it later. The risk is that if you aren't asking people to write reviews, the only people who will take the time and motivation are the people who think you are the most amazing professional in your field that they have ever encountered, or you rub them the wrong way and they feel like they need to go tell the world about it. And so that is the real liability, where you might wind up with a situation, which is exactly what we see in the data: three reviews where one of them is underwhelming because you weren't asking all the happy people to take the time to write something.
Can you
So,
also touch on, you told me earlier that if someone does get a bad review and there is profanity, I believe, in there, correct? There was slander,
yeah.
also false, that can be taken down.
So yes, and there's two ways to look at that. One is Google's policies are pretty common sense. Now, they are not always that responsive, but I do have clients, like I have a client who had one of their contractors write a bad review because they weren't getting paid as fast as they wanted to. Google took that down because it is a violation of Google's own terms. The idea, the high level summary of Google's policy is reviews should be about your business and your products. It
Hmm.
should, and they should be through the lens of what a customer experience should be. Now, there's a lot of other details, but you're right. Bad language, or anything that they have a reason to believe is fraudulent or written by a competitor. You have a
Hmm.
little bit of recourse there with Google in terms of if that's what's keeping you up at night, Google should be willing to take those sorts of things down.
Yeah, the competitor one is a big deal, and Google does not play around with that. This
So
one is like the top one I get.
it is. And look, it's commendable. Advisors don't want to be a burden. They don't want their clients to think that they're needy. I think the best way to frame this one is I think all advisors know your goal is to genuinely build a relationship with your clients, not to just be transactional conversations. They get this advice. Now, yes, most of the time it is an extremely one-directional relationship, but if you give them the opportunity to help you out in this tiny way, you are strengthening the relationship by giving them an opportunity to help you. And they understand that if they help your business, right? Look, every other industry has trained us. Reviews
Mhm.
are vital to business, health, and success. If you let them help you, if you give them an opportunity to help you, they're going to like you that much more. They're going to feel like your relationship is a little bit stronger because you are working together to make sure that they are going to help your business succeed.
I am honored when someone asks me uh, to review their service or company. I feel like I'm part of the inner circle and get that honor and privilege. It might be also because I'm in marketing, so I get that. But I have yet the hesitations that with this one about seeming needy can also fall under the line of you wanting to protect your client's privacy. And there's ways you can do that as well.
So I'll quickly jump to the question we got from Q&A, and then I'll hit compliance
Did
because
I
they
miss one?
tie in nicely. So the question we got was, doesn't Google come up as verified because they have to sign into their email?
Hmm.
So the kernel of that is correct, that basically Google does not support anonymous reviews. You have to have a Google account to be able to leave a review. That is an advantage and a challenge for a couple of reasons. One of the things that I hear, and actually we have a case study on it from one of our clients that did both our system reviews and Google reviews. A lot of clients don't want their full name out there in the world, especially when it's something pertaining to their financial situation. And so even clients who love their advisor sometimes are hesitant to go write a Google review because they don't want their full name out there. To the question of verified, it basically, you have a better confirmation than average that a human wrote this. Not perfect, but better, but it doesn't verify that they are your client, right? So it is still nice to know or believe that it wasn't a bot There are probably some slight workarounds to that, but Google is pretty stinking diligent about trying to make sure that there's no spammy reviews.
Hmm.
Um, but that leaves open the possibility that it's a former client. It theoretically could be a real person who is a competitor. So it's not a perfect system. But it is true, you can't leave an anonymous review on Google.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you want to answer Mike's question? Do you see
sure.
that? Okay.
Let me make sure I understand it. The question is, are there geographic limitations? We have clients all over the country. So the only way that that becomes a thing is a lot of times in a search term, if you're in Google, a search term, if Google knows where you are, the results that it shows up may be tailored to where you are. So if you have a firm name that's very similar to a firm name across the country, somebody who is across the country searching may see them first. But in terms of a limitation of are they able to write you a review? The answer for Google is no. The answer for other systems like our closed loop system, still no. No concern there. Um,
Mike,
I
I want
want
to make sure that answered your question. Um, so hopefully that did. If
yeah,
not,
just keep them coming if it didn't.
yeah.
We'll do our best. I'm going to dive into the compliance question and then we'll come back.
Wait,
And this is a very big question. I'm going to try and answer it very succinctly here, and we can either answer Q&A or follow up after today's event. Some compliance departments say no to Google reviews categorically, meaning no, you cannot ask for Google reviews. I understand that in a very strict interpretation of and again, I'm most familiar with the SEC marketing rule, but I think that is the guidance that a lot of states use as well. If you want to take the strictest interpretation, if you ask for reviews on Google, you are becoming potentially either entangled, well, you're becoming entangled in the collection process. And if you then acknowledge or talk about your Google reviews, you can claim that you have adopted them. The challenge is on Google, there is no way to add the disclosures that they want. Is it a client or non-client, compensated or not? Were there any conflicts of interest? Now, it's a whole separate conversation about whether or not those details are going to bubble up to something that could become an enforcement action. But uh, I want to make this mostly informational, but this is where it has to be a teeny bit pitchy on Amplify Reviews. The whole reason we brought this solution to this industry is we have a fully closed loop system where you can prove to compliance you gave every client the opportunity to write a review. You can publish them only on your own website where you have full control over what disclosures go on there. And we will help you define a review policy that we'll talk about in a little while that makes sure you are being transparent with people about what you will and won't publish. And if you would ever not publish a review that you got, you have a good reason, a good compliant reason as to why not. So really the spirit of the regulation is transparency, and that is the pillar that we built the whole approach on.
I also want to, it's okay to talk about Amplify Reviews, that the way that you have built it makes it also, it goes along with the brand. It looks really good, super sharp. And also, which is going to show, we'll show you guys in a few moments here, is that those reviews show up in searches too. So that's really great. Mike has another question. Sounds like a person or review. Do you see that one?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, if we are talking about Google, so the question sounds like a person in Oregon could write a review for a business in Maryland, and it could be relevant to searches in Maryland and Oregon. Um, The first part is a yes. Person in one state can write a review for the other one.
Mhm.
Relevant to searches, that's up to the person doing the search. The person doing the search has to be specific enough so that this business would show up. But yes, if the search engine or the AI tool knows that this firm is relevant to the query, then the reviews do factor into those search results.
And then there, Mike, there's also other ways that marketing can come into play, using those reviews so that you have better opportunity for them to show up. Right? Oh yeah, sorry, we skipped that.
Yes,
You already answered it. There you go. Okay, am I good to go into this next one?
please.
I
How about
teed
it?
myself, I teed myself up really, really well. You're welcome, Mike. So there are many ways to use reviews, and that's why I said earlier, reviews are great. You should absolutely strive to get them and have them as much as you humanly possibly can, but they will only go so far. And they're going to go pretty darn far for you, especially if it's a referral. But the marketing piece is very, very important. And one thing that Amplify Review does is that it does house those reviews on your website in a really nice, sharp looking way. So this is a mock-up example of what I want to show you why reviews should be on your website because SEO and AEO, think AI chats and all that, they do the way SEO works is we put content out there, right? And we're creating for SEO. AEO comes in and scours SEO and they work together to pull it up. So the more that you are utilizing these reviews in many different forms, especially on your website, the more opportunity you have for them to show up in something like ChatGPT. I'm also calling myself out here. I don't think I have any reviews on my website, so I know I need to do a couple of things. Can you see my screen of Eric?
Yes.
Perfect. So here's a prime example of the way it is housed on Eric's site. Actually, this is probably his profile too, I believe. Yes, this is actually under Eric, which I love. So what Whit has done here is something that I haven't seen, and I feel bad. Maybe it's out there more, but I normally see it on the homepage. But a brilliant idea, if you are allowed to and want to, and I think you should, do it on your own profile. So when someone clicks about, because that is the second most viewed web page or page on your website, they're going to want to read about you as an advisor. You throw those reviews on there, that is gold right there. I know I said gold a lot, but it works and it's true right here. So this is a great example of how to do it. I'm getting really worked up and excited, so I'm running out of air.
Well,
But
so oh, go ahead. This is good.
yep, here's a great another example right here. So once again, these are reviews. Widgets have made it so it is branded appropriately for this particular advisor's site. And as you can see, they're all listed here. There is information. I'm assuming, yep, right here, they can go see the rest of the reviews.
And what I'll quickly touch on, the nice thing is you are correct, Nikki. A lot of times people are initially really apprehensive to show review, if it's a five advisor firm, to show each advisor's rating and reviews.
Mhm.
What we like to do is tell our customers, you can collect them for each advisor, and you can initially publish them all together in one review feed, which is basically what these folks did first. Yes, they chose to show you which advisor each review was written for, but they then found every advisor had a great average rating. So if you go to any of those advisor profile pages, you now also get that advisor's personal rating and personal review feed. Yep, if you go to the team, you can find somebody there. While you're showing that, I'm going to try and touch on the question that we just got from Karen, and it may be one that we need to follow up on. Here's the question. What happens when we cannot get approved for a Google profile for an individual advisor? We've done it for one, and now Google doesn't want to approve for the other advisors on the team. Is there a good alternative to using Google reviews? Maybe you're about to cover that. So the first question is, let me recap what I think it is. One firm, one physical location, they're trying to get advisor level Google business profiles, presumably all with the same address. Short answer is yes, that is tricky. If you want to use the exact sort of name and branding of your firm with the advisor's name, it is going to be very hard to do that. I think
Mhm.
Google is hesitant to do that.
It's almost going to be impossible. It's just because Google doesn't want fake accounts being made. And so the process you have to go through, Karen, I'm sure you've already went through the process to set up a Google business profile is not as easy as, one, two, three.
Uh,
Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry. I got sidetracked, guys. Sorry,
yeah.
Karen. So that's the reason why they really are looking out for the individual person. So for me, I would not want someone else to come out and say, I work for Niki Clark Marketing. here's my Google business profile. So that's the problem. I don't want to be negative, but I don't think that there is going to be a way around that. Did you have a solution? Because I do, if you want to go.
Well, not surprisingly, one solution is to use a different technology that lets you collect and display reviews on your own website. And Nikki, I forget if our slides touch on this, but we have a couple of examples of several Amplify Reviews clients. The only reviews online were collected using our platform and are only displayed on their own website. And yet, when you go to ChatGPT, when you go to Google and put in advisor name reviews, the AI summary summarizes and parses those reviews. This is quickly because what you see on screen now, maybe you've heard this elsewhere. What is invisible to a website visitor is some under the covers markup, which is called schema markup. That is how you structure the elements of the content on your website to tell search engines, what is this? So with reviews, you need to have this markup so that a search engine knows this is review content. And if those search engines deem that the architecture of your website is credible, then they're like, oh, these aren't Google reviews, but they're reviews. And we have every reason to believe that. So they include them for both search authority, AI authority, in terms of what are consumers looking for when they search for reviews.
That was
So
going to be my workaround. Yes,
there we
schema
go.
should be implemented. Karen, your tech website development team should know how to do that. It's as simple as a simple plugin. Once again, something I'm not doing and I need to do it now. I just put a note on my notepad to go and do that. So definitely look into that because that is a solid workaround. And like Whit said, when someone searches, it will pull up in a search function. So that is the best workaround for that. You can also the one I don't particularly like is when someone leaves a review that could mention that person specifically, but I would do the schema markup and then also use Whit's tools because the way he has integrated with SEO and AEO, it shows up. And way to go, Dom. So Dominic just shared with us. He just got a Google search call and set an appointment for next week. So super awesome. Way to go, Dom. Not surprised.
Here's
Um,
what I would recommend. We got another question from Ted about uh, where these reviews are coming from. If you want, well, I've
yes,
lost where we
yes.
are in the outline.
No, that's fine. I think this would actually be a really smart place to go into that. So I'm going to stop sharing because I would love, I know
Okay.
what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So please do.
Well, I will quickly.
As Whit pulls that up, the next thing I was going to go into was if you do have a newsletter, you should be putting it at the bottom of your news. You know what? No, I can't. You should be putting any sort of review that you're able to tie back to the rest of the reviews, right? Not cherry picking. But you can insert them into your newsletters or you can insert them into your bottom of your email. If there's a specific page on your website, you can be putting reviews on there. Social media posts, you are absolutely 100% allowed to share social media posts, and you should be sharing about your successes and wins. Absolutely. All of this works together for SEO and AEO. So it's not just Nikki, like, oh, it's just a marketing thing. I promise you it's not. It all works together in your favor. And the more you're doing that, the more chances you are giving yourselves to show up in these search results.
So again, I'll touch on this briefly, and I'm happy to spend more time following up with anyone who still has questions. The examples that we're showing are clients that have used what we're calling this closed loop system. So our customers come in, they personalize and customize an email template that looks something like this. We can have a number of calls to action. One of them is to go ahead and click a star rating. That takes your client to a landing page where they provide a star rating, write a review. And then we confirm that it's your client by capturing their name and email address, but we let them choose how is their name going to be displayed next to this review. It can be anywhere from full name, first name, middle, last initial, just initials, or completely anonymous. Now, what happens once they have done this is, let's see if I can pull this up. One second. all of those reviews come into a dashboard where nothing gets published until somebody with the blessing of, oh, here we go, with the blessing of compliance, uh, reviews them. So every new review comes in a pending status.
Can you
Presume,
expand that a little bit? Make it bigger?
yes,
So this is the dashboard on Amplify Review that a firm or an advisor would see.
exactly. And so a new review comes in, it's going to sit here in a pending status until someone has laid eyes on it. And that can be compliance or it can be somebody that compliance approves. 98, 99% of the time, there's nothing of concern in here. They're going to click publish. And once they click publish, that can flow through to your website with this very simple implementation that Nikki showed a couple of examples of. The two other things they can do is flag it if they want to take that review and discuss it with compliance, or if they are sure it violates their policy, they can archive it. It stays in our system for an archival record for all time with an explanation of why you decided it was not suitable to publish, but it will not flow through to the website. And so this is how you can make sure non-clients don't get reviews online if they're leaving something here. Or, we have some innocent examples like when somebody brags about their advisor performance. If they talk too explicitly, that's going to run afoul of what you can put in your advertising, even if it's in the form of a review. And the last thing is sometimes folks will come in and redact a name, like one really happy parent rattled off all of their kids' names, and the advisor wasn't sure that the kid approved of having their name out there, so they just went and redacted those names.
Mhm.
All of the changes are retained in our system, so there's no concern that anybody's trying to be tricky with what they're doing.
Yeah, great, great job. Could you also somewhere in there show where someone did a Google search and a review showed up from,
Oh,
well, and while you're doing that, I see Karen has another question. Can your system, did we already answer this? Can your system account for reviews? Can your system account for reviews we already have either written on our website or Google reviews? Or would clients need to leave reviews and give testimonials all over again?
so
Super
great
good question.
question. Short answer is yes. You can import reviews that you already have. The two little details you need to think about. One, you either need to assume that it would be 5 stars or get the client to explicitly say that. And then two, we would have to assign a date for it. It's not, I don't know that it's important that you get it down to the day, but you'll want to roughly know when that review came in so that our review feed has dates attached to each review. And so you
Mhm,
just want it to make sense chronologically.
mhm. And Peggy, this is a very, not complicated, but it's a more intense um, explanation. So what Peggy's asking is uh, how they should structure the Google business page for multiple advisors. So this is a very long answer. I'm going to be as concise as possible, and then maybe Peggy, you, Karen, Whit, and I can get on a call later. But the biggest thing is I want you to know that whenever we're coaching a client, make sure when you pick a name and well, location's kind of when you pick a name for your business, you like it because the process to go through to update is very challenging. We just went through this with a client who literally just changed locations, and it was, I don't even remember how long it took and all the appeals that we went through. So there's that. So I always keep that in the back of my head of what an appeal is because if you did change the name on your Google business profile, it's going to be shut down. It just is. Then you have to go through the appeals process. There's two options I can handle. You can hire us because we don't stop and we keep going and get it back up, or you shut it down, you lose all those reviews. So that's why I would want to take this offline and talk to you and work through some ideas and case best ideas that would be best for you all. So I don't know if you have time after this and we can just figure that out and talk with them a little bit more, or you have our emails, but it is a bigger answer than something real simple here.
Yeah, but I would be happy to dive into the details.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll geek out on that with you 100%. Somewhere else up in this, and I forgot to get to it. I think Greg asked, are there a number of reviews that you should have to make it impactful? I always recommend, yes, right?
You have a slide for this, don't
I
you?
do. I don't know where it is, but a minimum of five. Not saying that one review isn't good enough or three isn't good enough. They are. But if we're thinking about marketing them and advertising them, and if you went on someone's website and you only saw one review, it's kind of like, this is kind of odd and weird and don't be cringy kind of thing, right? So collect those, but work hard on the campaign that you do. So I know there's some people here, maybe, who have used services that no, they just there's services out there that provide content, emails, websites, and all of that. And there's some emails in there that you can send out as a campaign. They've been approved by compliance, and you can request reviews that way. Remember, you can't cherry pick. So you can't just go to your top favorite clients because if the SEC does audit you, they're going to say, oh, I see you sent this request to these 20 people. Show me where your full campaign is. And if you don't have that, it's a big issue. So you want to make sure of that. So the minimum I recommend before you start putting them on your website is five. The five is also the little golden nugget from Google that gives you a pat on the head and says, oh, you've got five now. Now you're on the map with us, and we're going to show your profile to more people. So five is a beautiful number. There's different levels later on, but for right now, I would goal everyone here to send an email campaign, no cherry picking, or you can have a review me link on your website, your email signature. Just make sure it is open to everyone and you're not excluding anyone. So I hope that answered that question. So we talked about a lot. And so the biggest things I'm going to share my screen here again real quick. There's top three things that both Whit and I want to impart on everyone. Definitely Whit's is, this is both of ours, but claim the Google business profile. And just caveat when you're doing that, just do it right the first time. If you have questions about it, please reach out. There are some times when you already set up a Google business profile and you're like, I want to change the name. I don't want to have my credentials after it. I saw someone once that said like Niki Clark, FPQP, financial planner. It was like their name. And they were like, it's Google does not like that. So they wanted to go in and change it, and that wasn't a possibility, and they're still fighting with that. So when you do claim your Google business profile, make sure you do it right the first time.
And
Draft your
that's
first.
whether or not you want to work on reviews. You should want to work on reviews, but independent of everything after this, you should have a Google business profile and you should claim.
Yes, yes. Draft your first email outreach. There's a template provided. Where do we provide the template?
Uh,
I'll
we
get you that template, no problem. Don't worry. We will provide a template, not a problem. Just reach out to us. I will send, when we send the replay and recap, there will be a template in there for you. How about that? Make my little note here. So the email outreach definitely needs to be, again, all of your clients, send it to all of them. There are some people who are worried about those. There's other things that you can do, like putting an email signature or on your website, because technically that's open to everyone. And then create a review and publishing policy, which Amplify Review is your solution for that. That's one thing I really like about Amplify Review, is because all you as an advisor need to do is collect them. Like, and then obviously have, compliance and their blessing from that, right? But then that's it, right? Amplify Reviews takes all of the hard part off of your list and makes it really seamless and really easy. And I've seen the dashboard, it's really easy to use. And then we can come in and help you market it. But if you're wanting a really easy solution, this is it. Then for me, from my recommendations that I need to implement myself, right? Put at least 5 of your reviews on your website. Build social posts highlighting testimonials. Social posts I have found to be easier to share because the cherry picking rule and whatnot versus newsletters. It just gets a little convoluted. And then add reviews into your prospect presentations, which is a no-brainer. That should definitely be in there 100%. And I love this. One review tomorrow is better than 50 reviews never, right?
It's a great quote.
Hey, I say something else like that too. But anyhow, I love that because once you get that first one, it's kind of fun, right? And you want to get more. So me myself, when Hugh, gosh, I don't know why I want to call you Hugh, but excuse me, when Whit reached out and talked about this, I got to thinking, I was like, oh shoot, I only have 3 reviews. So I know it's easier for me because I'm in marketing and I am not an advisor. So I recognize that and I acknowledge that. But I went out on a rampage and I think we have like 15 now and counting. So, once you start, it's really fun. And this is kind of a big deal right here. Don't wait until your prospects choose someone else. Reviews are very important. Referrals work, but them together is what's going to get them to call, pick up the phone, schedule a meeting. Those reviews are literally now, we used to say referrals are the lifeblood. I would say reviews are the lifeblood.
Well, and this one, I like that sentiment. You can frame it whichever way is going to motivate you. Right now, if you're one of the absolute next advisors to embrace and adopt reviews, you are going to win prospects that you otherwise would not have won. If that's not motivating enough for you, then turn it around and say, if this time in 2026 I still have not gotten any reviews, I will have probably lost a prospect to a better
Mm-hmm.
rated advisor.
Mm-hmm. Just something to keep in mind. Last, my computer keeps wanting to do something funky. Um, if you want to reach out to Whit or I, here's our QR codes. Whit has a really awesome offer. Scan his, he's helps you with a website mockup. So you can scan that QR code right there. Also, please feel free to reach out to each of us. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We're both pretty active on LinkedIn. Um, Reach out to us there, email us. We'll be following up with Whit's research and study, the presentation, slides here if you want them, and then I will personally, after this, create a email template. Once again, run that through compliance, of course, and we'll follow up with all of that for you all. And then if you have any further needs or questions, you know where to find us.
Well, and I'll just say, had a lot of fun with Nikki getting ready for this and talking through some of the details. Always some new facets. So, didn't do intros at the beginning, but I will tell you, it has been a real pleasure working with Nikki. She did. It felt like the two of us were fighting over who was going to get to do the work to prepare for this. A very pleasant style of working. So, big endorsement for Nikki and all that
Oh,
she knows and
thank
does for
you.
me.
I unfortunately will not be at Future Proof, and I don't want to talk any more about that because I'm super jealous, but Whit will be. So if any of you all are there, feel free to, connect with him. For me, I would love if you sent me any pictures of Blues Traveler. They are one of my favorite bands, and I'm very disappointed that I do not get to meet them. So, thank you, Neil. Uh, that's it. I don't know if Karen or Peggy, if you have time to stay on, we'll stop the recording and whatnot. We can chat with you. But other than that, thank you everyone for attending and reach out when you have some questions.